No! God, please, no! 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 No!
Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. I am T, and this is T's Good Times Garage, but we're back in the garage today on this cold, rainy December weekend. We've got stuff to do, way too many things to do, and not enough time to do it. So what's it gonna be? It's actually really been a couple of weeks, I think, since I've done anything out in the garage besides some organization. I know, can you tell? Just kidding. I have. I've been trying to get rid of some things, organize things a little bit. It's a little crowded in here, and I have to figure that out. The long-term plan is a loft in this back third section of the garage. If anybody has a line on a 30-foot I-beam that'll span this sucker. Got to be close to Utah though, or in Utah preferably, but let me know. I would appreciate that. Some framing I need to do in the walls, build some supports, and there'll be storage up top, and there'll be a place to chill. Pictured now. A mini fridge, a desk maybe, some comfortable chairs. That'll be fun. But we're not there, unfortunately. We're not doing that today. Should be working on this, but the last couple weeks I've had other things going on. Obviously the Thanksgiving holiday. I had to do an oil cooler on my wife's Jeep Cherokee. We really need to get to this. I don't know if I'm going to be freshening this up. I wanted to. But the big thing that I need to do on this car is front end work. And for those of you that know me, you know that this car isn't the best geometrically speaking up front. Previous owner had a rack put in it, and all they did was the old ball joint switcheroo, basically. They cut the K-frame practically in half. There's no support over the top. And if you can see down in there, guess what broke? And it's tough to say exactly when that happened, but you see there's just a little bit of a support under the rack. And yeah, I'm kind of mad at myself because I allowed this to be not the greatest for so long. Things always gone straight as an arrow. That's never been an issue. But if you've seen it, you know, in reverse or turning or anything like that, it's a problem. So that really needs to happen first. Can't really drive this car until I fix the front end. There's not a ton of passes on this combination. It's just got a few years on it since it was refreshed. Probably 6 years since the last refresh. But being as we haven't had a local track, I don't even know if it's got 125 passes on it since then. We'll see what happens. But my plan is K-frame swap. I want to do the entire thing. And I've always had my heart set on the Riley Motorsports Altercation. I think that's probably one that's been around the longest. And I've never heard anybody that had a problem with it. You see the QA1 has gained a lot of popularity in the last year or so. And it looks like a nice piece. It's probably going to come down to the reliability of it all. And I'm pretty sure there was no real difference in price. But that is going to be my big hurdle to overcome. I think that's going to make this car even more fun to drive. It's a blast to drive. It is a little heavy. We'll take some weight off the front doing that and re-gasket it. Probably should put an oil pan on it too. And transmission's got a little bit of a leak or two as well that I got to find. Front end has to happen first. Let me know what your thoughts are on what front end, what K-frame swap I should do. Especially if you have real world experience with it. We really need to get back on this one. The piggy bank horsepower build off. Our budget builder, a 383. We've got the short block assembled. 4 years later, we finally get to the topic of today's video. This beast of an engine sat in the engine bay of my 1968 Dodge Charger just months ago. Go back and check out my video of Matt's 2023. We developed issues. You may remember we actually saw this thing, pretty sure it was hydrolocked. And it's a really good possibility that hydrolocking this engine caused issues downstream. Consequently, it now has a significant knock coming from inside. And I'm finally to the point where I want to find out exactly what messed itself. So we're going to tear into it. I'm going to go ahead and get all the top end off first. Take off little things, accessories, fuel pump, oil pump. Then we'll pull the balancer and all that fun stuff. Rocker arms and push rods are out. I'm honestly not sure which brand this is. I kind of think these were Mopar Performance, but I'm not 100% sure on that. If they look familiar to you, let me know. Leave a comment. Moving over onto the heads. Looks like each one of these has a lash cap on it. I'm going to try not to lose those. Get this valley plate off. Practically brand new valley tray. Oh well. And if you'll look closely, you'll see that apparently every intake valve has made contact with the piston. And on number 7, both somehow managed to hit. You may see a few small shiny spots on some of the valves, though at a glance, all look to be resting nicely in their seats. There's no massive, obvious strike marks other than those little small shiny spots, but we will have to dig a little deeper into this at some point and check that all the valves are straight and that they're sealing. They'll definitely need a thorough inspection. This wasn't always the easiest engine to start. Maybe part of the problem. And in case you were wondering, these happen to be 915s, so we've got some beautiful closed chamber action. And for all of those noticing something about the pistons is not quite stirring the Kool-Aid, well, you're absolutely correct. While they may appear at a glance to match up with valve locations in the cylinder head, the reliefs are all wrong. They're facing the wrong direction. And it's not even as simple as just installed backwards. No piston can be rotated and remain in the same hole. They'd all have to be relocated to find a home in which valve reliefs would be in the correct location. Lots more to check to determine how many mistakes were made. Not sure if the pistons were even installed on the rods correctly, in the right spot. Who knows? Eventually, we'll check into that a little bit deeper, but that's going to be something for another time. And in case you were wondering, purple shaft, solid lifter. The lifters all came out nice and smooth. No rough anything, just spun freely, pulled out of the bores nice, and the patterns all look really good on the bottom. No issues seemingly there. I wanted to pull the balancer off and get the timing cover, timing chain out, get those all looked at, but I apparently have misplaced my impact gun, so we'll probably hold off on that. You can visibly see the crosshatch still in the cylinders. No lip at all. So it's really a shame because I don't think this thing had a ton of time on it. Now I'm going to flip it over and we'll look at the bottom end. You may recall I stole the pan off of this and used it on the Moho motivator in the charger. And when we did that, we did find that the bottom of the pan was pretty full of crusty garbage. I'm trying to decide what pistons these are. I'm not really certain that they're forged. I'm guessing they might not be. But you can see a 030 mark in the underside of the piston. So we do have an overbore on our hands. There we have a double roller timing chain. How nice. It's number 1 and number 2. Three and 4. This is what I was kind of expecting to see. Number 3 seems okay. And of course we've got a little side-to-side action. Only on number 4 though. Number 3 seems like it's not going anywhere either way, maybe slightly. This is the movement that I don't like. We appear to have issues on that one. Let's turn it over and check the rest of them. Seem okay as far as the rod to the crank on 5 and 6. Okay, well, 6 and 7 or 7 and 8 seem okay. Let's bring this thing back to 3 and 4. Number 4 being apparently our culprit. Can't get that thing to dance at all. It doesn't really want to budge. The bearing is toast. Just I'm going to push that piston the rest of the way out and get that bearing off, and we'll look at it on the bench. And in case you're wondering, it's KB. Guess that hyper-eutectic. But man, it scored these skirts up really bad too. Speaking of bearings, how about that? Spun it, flattened it, widened it. Here's the other half. Hoping to be able to tell if the crank had been turned at all. So yeah, how about that? So the question is, was that on its way to happening? Did the hydrolock finish the job? Did the hydrolock cause it? Tough to say, but we do have one spun bearing. The others feel good. Can't imagine everything's gonna be perfect, you know, if some of this material ran through the engine. Here's the one right next to it. These bearings definitely were affected. Seemed to be halfway decent wear until that other bearing started to go. Started to shove itself into this one. I'm going to get the rest of them taken out, see if everything else looks good. I feel like number 2 was on its way out too. These bearings are definitely not very snug in there. Especially the cap side. Still okay on the crank surface. But I did find markings on one of the bearings that so far that it's 10 on the rods. If we can hope for the same on the mains, I'd turn it another 10 if we needed to. Well, they are all out. So we're definitely going to need some help on this crank here from a machinist. Probably going to need another turn. So this crank definitely looks like it's been balanced. It's a forged crank. It's got the little chamfer going on the oiling passages. How nice. But it spins beautiful. So I'm not going to sweat it too much just yet. I will get the crank out soon for fun, but we'll probably include that in some future content. Anybody know anything about this? It's probably a machinist stamping is what I'm guessing. It does say KB9108. I am assuming that that came from the machine shop that did the work. At some point in the near future, I hope to get this back into the machine shop and get it looked over as far as what it's going to need. Honestly, this one probably a good candidate for a rotator. Make it bigger. So we'll wrap this one up for now. I'll get everything covered back up until we can move forward with it. The dart needs some work. Daryl the duster needs some work. Those are kind of the two, 1 and 2, in that order as far as priority goes. The dart needs to be ready to race in 2024. Let us know what you think we should do with this one. But I kind of feel like doing something a little bit more. We could just put pistons and rods in it, have the crank touched up. This was a solid combination. It ran strong, it pulled hard. Purple shaft, solid lifters, 915 heads. That's something I wanted to do too, dang it. Wanted to look at the the piston height in regards to the deck. But I'm a moron and I forgot to do that. Thanks for coming along this journey as we found out what the heck happened to the Rod Knocker 440. Now we know. If you would, go ahead and click that like button, especially if you liked it. If not, you know, if you don't mind doing me a solid, that's cool too. If you're a subscriber, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. If not, please consider it. We've always got something Mopar on the horizon, and if you want to see what that is, hit that button. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you on the next one.